Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a special avalanche warning is in place in our area. We hear the reasoning behind the cancellation of the Kispiox Music Festival and heat in the legislature over ER closures.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday, February 28th, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We begin today with a staple in the Northwest music scene, which will not be a part of summer festivities this year. Damien Smith from CFTK-TV has more on why the Kispiox Valley Music Festival will not be running in 2025.
Well, it was announced yesterday that the Kispiox Music Festival will be put on pause for the summer of 2025, with the board wanting to address capacity issues through online sales.
Moving to online sales for the festival will address the capacity and let us limit the amount of people who are going to be on site. But this is a huge change. We've always had gate sales, and with the gate sales, you don't really know how many people are going to show up until they come to the gate.
Hosted in the last weekend of July every year, this festival had its most successful year in 2024 with close to 3,000 people in attendance. Ramsey notes that with trailers, campers, and parking on and off-site, they were merely just running out of space.
We didn't feel we had enough time to implement that change between now and this July. And so the decision was made to pause the festival and also take the opportunity to improve other infrastructure. So creating a parking and camping plan, recruiting a membership, having a membership and having volunteers and people from the community that have ideas.
However, the board does not want this year to be looked as a cancellation and more of a pause for the moment, and they felt as though July was going to be too early for this year's festivities and will now look to make improvements to their constitution and how they can expand through the Northwest.
There gets to a point where you grow so much and it changes the flavor of the festival. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to look at that and make some changes. That isn't necessarily the way we want to go. We don't want to be the biggest and we don't want to grow. We can't grow. We can't grow anymore. We just don't have the infrastructure for it. But part of the magic of the festival is the fact that it isn't really big.
Now, in the summer of 2014, Ramsey went to the Kispiox Music Festival for the first time and saw around 1,600 to 1,800 people in attendance. And while they don't have an estimate on what they want in terms of how many people they want for next year, they do not want it to be at around 3,000. From CFTK-TV, I'm Damien Smith.
The Northwest is known for its supreme backcountry, attracting winter sport enthusiasts from around the globe. But a warning is currently in place for much of BC and Alberta. Here's CTV's Abigail Turner.
Unstable snowpack and a weekend of warm weather has Avalanche Canada issuing a warning for backcountry enthusiasts.
Heading into this weekend, we're expecting high avalanche danger.
It's a message this backcountry ski guide is paying close attention to.
In this case, everything's getting dialed right back. So people are sticking to more simple terrain where you're minimizing your exposure to avalanches or you're in non-avalanche terrain at all.
Avalanche Canada's warning is for regions in both BC and Alberta due to an unstable layer of snow that's sitting on a weaker layer that developed during dry weather earlier this year.
This problem is particularly challenging because it's deeply buried in the snowpack. In the coastal mountains, it's roughly 50 to 100 centimeters deep. And so it's hard to see clues of instability under your feet.
And it's not just the backcountry affected by the instability. Whistler Blackcomb posted on social media that it's closed these runs due to the danger as well.
I want to be clear that we're not closing Whistler Blackcomb for the mountain. It's still open to the public, and the skiing will be fantastic this weekend. However, you may see closures of small portions of our terrain in order to keep people out of harm's way.
So far this year, 2 people have died in BC due to avalanches. And with a warm weekend ahead, experts are urging caution for those looking to get outdoors.
You should not be going out in the backcountry if you don't have the training, the equipment, and a group of people to go to that are on the same page. And, we strongly recommend at this point with these kind of conditions to hire a professional guide to go out.
The avalanche warnings are expected to be in place until Monday. Backcountry users are being urged to check Avalanche Canada's forecast each day before heading out in the terrain. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
As Americans become more and more divided on their stance and opinions towards President Donald Trump, some dual citizens are even considering revoking their American citizenship. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson.
Jennifer Doxey and her family live on Vancouver Island. She grew up in the U.S. Midwest, met her husband down there, who is a dual citizen, and they decided to raise their family in Canada. That was almost 2 decades ago, and she calls her experience in this country amazing.
I came to Canada in search of that lifestyle, and I found it here. And so, it was kind of at that moment that it occurred to me that I think possibly my American dream was the Canadian dream.
Doxey says she wants nothing to do with the United States after Donald Trump's re-election and threats toward Canada.
I hear Donald Trump come on television and say that he would like to make Canada the 51st state, and this just infuriated me.
She's now looking into renouncing her U.S. citizenship, and so are her husband and 2 daughters. But it can be a process that takes months, including immigration filings, tax submissions, an interview, and the cost is much higher than in most countries. The U.S. charges about $3,400 Canadian per person. But one immigration lawyer says right now he's seeing a 50% spike in requests about renouncing.
Making sure that you are fully confident that this is what you want to do is definitely very important. It's a major life decision, and it's not something that should be taken lightly.
It's also a decision that is final. There's no going back later in life and deciding you want to be American again. Jennifer Doxey and her family say they have 100% confidence their future is in Canada for good. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, heat over ER closures. As spring is just around the corner, an exciting time for most. However, if you're an allergy sufferer, you might not be looking forward to it as much. Here's CTV's Craig Krause with the latest on the pollen forecast.
Prone to pollen? If you are, your worst nightmare is rearing its head once again.
As soon as the trees start to go, it is just full on, just running, dripping. It is brutal.
Researchers forecasting a significant pollen surge in Vancouver and Victoria, kicking off allergy season.
This weekend we're going to see high to very high levels of cedar pollen,
with alder and hazel pollen hitting our sinuses in the weeks that follow.
In the next few weeks we're going to see that rise dramatically as well, and we'll be in full-fledged allergy season.
The South Coast getting the first blast before the rest of the country as temperatures rise in the region.
We do expect tree pollen counts to get quite high through March and April.
Dr. Kanani says they should drop in May, but before then, he warns people with underlying health issues like asthma to be cautious.
The pollen allergies will cause what we call allergic rhinitis or hay fever, so congestion in the nose, runny nose, sneezing. It can also cause irritation and tearing with the eyes. And then in those who have asthma, it will definitely can make their asthma much worse.
If you're unsure about pollen levels, the Aerobiology Research Lab has rolled out an app called Allergy Suffers to help you prepare and ease the pain. Craig Krause, CTV News, Vancouver.
Emergency room closures have plagued the Northwest in recent years, and it's not just us. Across BC, emergency rooms are understaffed, and the implications of these closures are huge. CTV's Robert Buffum has more.
Member, for God's sake, be quiet.
Emotions boiling over in question period Thursday.
When you're trying to access an emergency room and it's closed, that's inconvenient.
A steady stream of BC Conservatives demanding answers to the same question for their region.
Elkford's ER department in my riding has been closed for over 2 years. 2 years.
No fewer than 20 MLAs rising to flag emergency room closures in their part of the province over the past 2 years.
26 days in this past year to the Premier, when will hospital closures stop in British Columbia? The emergency room in Karamias has been closed evenings and weekends for 1,213 days. Why does this Premier think that this is acceptable?
The health minister rising each time, acknowledging the problem, pledging more help is coming.
I will stand up for healthcare workers each and every day.
We could have gone on with our entire caucus. 20 speakers is a record. I don't think any opposition parties ever put up that many speakers in a question period before.
We have a global shortage of healthcare workers, and that's why it's incumbent on us to do everything possible to train and recruit new doctors to our province.
This stack, printouts provided by the Conservatives of notices of hundreds of the ER closures across the province in the past couple of years, including Delta this weekend, most in rural communities like Merritt. Its mayor speaking out today too.
We've been closed for the last 3 nights out of the last 4 days. We've had closures. And the concerning one for us was Sunday night when we had a structure fire here in town, and one of our firefighters needed medical assistance.
The province facing heat itself in a testy question period, putting a fine point on the scope and extent of the emergency room crisis. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
Turning now to your Northwest weather report. Tonight on the North Coast, expect periods of rain with the temperatures sitting at 7 degrees, with light winds but gusting up to 50 kilometers an hour in exposed coastal sections. Over the next few days on the North Coast, temperatures will sit in the 7 to 9 degree range, with the sun coming out Sunday and Monday. Overnight temperatures getting as low as 0 on Sunday. Tonight in the Terrace Kitimat area, expect periods of rain with the temperature steady near 5 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace Kitimat area, expect the rain to taper off on Sunday, with the sun sticking around for a few days afterwards. Temperatures will stay in the 6 to 9 degree range, with overnight lows mostly sitting around 0. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect clouds with a 30% chance of rain showers, periods of mixed wet snow beginning late this evening, and a low of 1 degree. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it'll continue to rain on Saturday. Then Sunday, the sun will come out for a few days with temperatures in the 5 to 7 degree range. Taking a look at the highways around the Northwest now. On Highway 16, there's fog patches. Watch for fallen ice and debris west of Terrace. Industrial traffic between Telkwa and Gitsigukla will cause some delays. There's also industrial traffic on Highway 37 that may slow or block traffic. Watch for slippery sections and compact snow there as well. Watch for fog patches and slippery sections on the Nishka Highway, as well as fallen ice or debris. Slippery sections on Telegraph Creek Road, as well as muddy sections, slush, and compact snow. And this is what the roads were looking like around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a new medical device in BC. We have a new medical device in BC for treating infectious diseases. CTV's Martin McMahon has more.
It's called the EpiShuttle. The portable pod can seal in a patient to prevent them from infecting people around them.
Patients who may be under suspicion for or diagnosed with a high-threat pathogen. High-threat pathogens are those that are included as viral hemorrhagic fevers. So, for example, like Ebola or Lassa fever, Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever.
It's small enough to fit in an ambulance or aircraft, and it has glove ports which allow medical staff to treat patients without the need to wear personal protective equipment, which can take a long time to put on and may be upsetting for the patient.
In my career, there was the avian bird flu, there's obviously COVID of recent. With the use of the EpiShuttle, definitely would be doing things a little different if we were to repeat those experiences.
The Norwegian device was created by experts who responded to the 2014 Ebola outbreak in West Africa. In high-risk situations, PPE is considered less effective than isolating patients through devices like this.
It safely contains the patient to be able to transport them from another area to ours at the biocontainment hospital. It allows us to safely move them through an area that will reduce the risk to the public and to other staff.
Each EpiShuttle costs $95,000 per unit. BC now has 2 of them.
We haven't used it just yet. Thankfully, we haven't had to, but we'll be ready to use it when the call comes through.
In our province, there have been some infectious disease scares that ultimately didn't pose a risk to the public. But healthcare workers are glad to have a new tool, just in case. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Richmond.
An Alberta woman has fallen victim to a terrible scam that drained her life's savings. And it turns out she's not the only one. Here's CTV's Kathy Lee.
These documents tell a story of deceit, one fraudulent banking transaction, and Samantha Barnes's life savings drained.
I lost $233,000.
That money meant to go to her 5 children.
Devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Barnes wanted a low-risk investment and chose GICs, Guaranteed Investment Certificates, which are backed by banks. Last October, Barnes Googled the best GIC rates and a website popped up. She filled out her contact information. A man claiming to be with PC Financial emailed and called, offering a higher rate, and sent her official-looking documents to sign.
I looked over all these documents. I searched the internet. I did all of my research.
Barnes wired the money from her bank. The man then sent her a link to what appeared to be her investment information, but she said it looked suspicious. So she made some calls to track where her money went, and it turns out it didn't go where she thought it did. It was gone.
For it to come and really show up as I've been scammed, that it really hurts, and it hurts my family.
She's not the only one. An Oakville, Ontario senior says he was a victim to the same scam last October, but with an even bigger consequence.
They sent me a graph showing that in 1 year I was going to come up with $798,000. I've got zero, nothing.
And there are more, including this woman from Kelowna, BC.
I'm a single mom and I don't know how I'm going to recover this.
And Anna Sierra, who says her brother from Kitchener, Ontario, is out a whopping $900,000.
This was his sort of retirement savings.
The RCMP says being aggressively skeptical is your best defense against fraud.
If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Take the time to just verify before your investors send money to anyone or anywhere.
And the bank that Barnes thought she was investing with offered this vital information in a statement, now posted on its website, saying PC Financial doesn't have representatives who promote or sell GICs in person, over the phone, or through email. Barnes has filed a report with the RCMP and hired a lawyer. She thinks that it shouldn't be easy to send money to scam sites.
I also believe that our banks need to be held accountable.
She is still hopeful she can get her money back. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Taking a look at the stock markets now. The Canadian dollar fell slightly. The price of gold dropped $47.40. Oil dropped 59 cents. Natural gas dropped 10 cents. Aluminum dropped $15.50. In Toronto, the TSX was up 265 points. The Venture Index was down a point. In New York, the Nasdaq was up 303 points and the Dow Jones rose 601 points. Still ahead, an update on the Surrey attack. Yesterday, we heard about a troubling home invasion in Surrey that left residents very shaken. Today, we have an update. Here's CTV's Ben Nesbitt with the latest.
Several officers surrounded David Hoffman following his arrest for an alleged violent home invasion. But when taken to Peace Arch Hospital for treatment, he was left with just a single Mountie, a decision the local MLA says was almost catastrophic.
What we're hearing is that there was an assault on the police officer, attempted to grab their firearm, and it was actually a health professional that stepped in and was able to somehow physically restrain this person.
We asked the RCMP why only one officer was left with the suspect at the hospital. They said he had been cooperative up until he tried to flee. They wouldn't say what, if any, charges were being considered for that specific incident. The BC Nurses Union president points to this as yet another example of violence in healthcare settings.
Violence is happening with increased frequency, and the assaults themselves are becoming very serious, or the potential to cause serious harm is there.
The Solicitor General says mental health is believed to be a factor, and that involuntary care facilities will be a priority in the upcoming provincial budget.
Well, we have some up and running, and it's important that we understand that it's a work in progress and it continues.
For the alleged home invasion, Hoffman has been charged with 2 counts of break and enter, assault, 2 counts of mischief under $5,000, and breaching a release order. The victims suffered minor injuries, but the mental scars are deep. Now their neighborhood is rallying behind them.
It really touched my heart to feel the community and the love, neighbors coming together and just loving each other.
Hoffman made a brief court appearance Wednesday night. He remains in custody and will be back in court next week. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Surrey.
An update now on the death of a beloved actor, his wife and dog. The incident is now being deemed suspicious. Here's CTV's Adrian Alonso.
Okay. Are they moving at all?
No, dude, they're not moving. Just send somebody out here really quick.
This morning, looming questions surrounding the passing of actor Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and one of their dogs. Their deaths all now being investigated as suspicious.
She's laying down on a floor from the window.
Officials were called to the actor's Santa Fe home Wednesday, finding the front door open.
It was a security officer that went to the house and had discovered the individuals in the home.
According to the search warrant, Hackman was found in the mudroom of the home, appearing to have suddenly fallen. His wife was on the bathroom floor with a space heater near her head and an open orange prescription bottle with pills scattered on the countertop. Their German Shepherd was found dead inside a kennel about 10 to 15 feet away from Arakawa. 2 other dogs were found there alive. Officials believe those pets had access in and out of the home through a dog door. Authorities say they found no signs of foul play, but they're not ruling it out. Detectives now looking into carbon monoxide as a potential cause of death. The gas company also investigating.
There was no indication of a struggle. There was no indication of anything that was missing from the home or disturbed.
But officials say the couple could have been dead for quite some time, their bodies already decomposing when they were found, signaling that deadly gas could have vented through the open front door.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time.
Gene Hackman was considered a master of his craft, known for his roles like Superman's arch-enemy Lex Luthor, and his Oscar-winning performance in the 1971 film The French Connection. Now tributes pouring in from his hometown to Hollywood. Dustin Hoffman remembering their early days at Pasadena Playhouse Acting School together, saying in a statement, Gene was like Brando, in that he brought something unprecedented to our craft. Powerful, subtle, brilliant, a giant among actors. I miss him already. And Bill Murray also remembering Hackman, who co-starred with him in The Royal Tenenbaums.
He was really good. Guy was really, really good. Goodbye, Gene. I hope you're well wherever you are.
That's our news for now. Thanks for watching.